Welcome back, and welcome to our second Fast and Easy Painting Hacks video. Today we're going to be doing sand walls or sandstony walls, Tatooine type stuff on the Pilgrim house by Corvus terrain. The guys have given us this file to have a play with. We've done this already on our live stream. We just wanted to get some of those techniques in a quick 10-minute video, just so people can actually quickly see what's going on. So what we're going to do today is show how to get the effects down and what colours we used, so people can copy off us. What we did to start with is, on some of the prints that I was doing, we had print failures due to my machines. So as you can see, some of them have got the lines where the filament didn't come out very well. And the great thing with this is we can even show you how that doesn't affect this process much. So what you would normally think is a bad print or something like that, you can quite easily cover it up with what we're about to do. So this is just a cut section of one of the walls. It goes onto the back or whatever. So I've just cut it out and I've primed it just so what we do now, the paint sticks. You can prime it in any colour because you will eventually do it again, but I used the Army Painters Desert Yellow and just the rattle can. Gives a good coating. I've left bits and pieces on because this will show you how we're going to cover some of it up. So I'm using the 100% matched Warpaint, and to the side I've got a tray, and that is just full of the Army Painter sand. What I'll do is I'll do it at the corner here so you can actually see me doing it. I'll actually shake that first so it doesn't go everywhere. So I'm actually going to do it in the top tray. So I got a good amount of that. When I did it before, I used half a bottle of this. But when you think half a bottle of this and some sand, and it covers the entire building. So with that, you quickly drop in some sand, and using an old brush, just mix it together till it goes into a sand textured paint. And you can add, or you can't take away, but you can add paint to thin it down, or you can add more sand to actually get it more sandy. And this is going to go on fairly thick. It's not like a thin coat or anything. So that's the sort of consistency I got it to. And then again, just using the old brush, so if you're splodging it on pretty thick, all of the lines where the failed print has shown through, all of that disappears doing this anyway. So the slowest part of this work is drying time. That's the biggest part of any of these methods that we use. And so you paint it up like that, get all the gaps. If you've got bits that you can see the line across there, just fill the line in ever so slightly with the sand residue, and build it up, and there you go. The line obviously disappears as it dries. So I'll now leave this, or would now leave this till it's fully dry. Clean the brush, and that's it. Wait till it all dries up. So I'll just put that down there out of the way. That will eventually come out to this sort of texture, and at this point there's one of two things you can do. Is if you want to make it all the same colour again, you might have caught some bits, clean it up, and then you can actually just go back over it with the rattle can, which is what we've done here, and you get the rattle can effect. And some of it obviously when it was going hard, I splodged on a bit. I didn't splodge on more, but I just splodged it, so it made patterns and shapes in the sand texture. So the next thing is, it's a bit of a dilute to taste sort of thing. So you get flesh wash. Now you can do this with the a fairly decent sized wash brush if you've got one, or to make it a little bit quicker, as we are today, you can put it through the airbrush. Now, anyone that follows our stream, the flesh wash, the blue, all of the quick shades go through the airbrush fantastically. Yeah. We've used the blue on K2SO. I've used the flesh wash on all sorts, just to bring out certain colours. You get more of an even, like, spread of colour change, as it were. And what you can actually do is drop the pressure down. So where you've got gaps down wall edges, you just run it in the gap and you get a build up in there where you would of dark edging. So a little bit under each one of the rungs. If you hit the rungs, it doesn't matter, because you're going to be hitting them with a silver at some point, just to... There you go. Just changes the colour, makes it look a bit used, bit dirty. Again, around this edging. So I'm going to fill in down here quite a bit round the canister. Again, you can paint the canister up, get rid of the overspray from the wash, or wash it even more. So you've got cabling as well, so I like to run it. It's just a quick run of the airbrush. And you see how it picks it up. It's really quick with the airbrush. So in the crevice there. So you've also got little divots and nooks and crannies. You can see there it's got a little bit of a divot. We can just fill in there a little bit. So it gives it a bit. There's one there. A bit there. It gives the wall a bit of character. It's not just a plain single coloured wall. If you've got a big open space like there, there's no harm. A lot of the walls that I do, if it's the ground floor, just give the lower part just a bit of a light, so it changes the colour. Again, this edging, if you think you've gone too much, don't worry, because we'll be dry brushing it as well, just to bring some of the colours back. So a little bit of a thicker wash all over. Oh, sorry, a thinner wash, very thin wash all over, just to bring it to a slight tint. I'm not bothering with this side because obviously it's just a quick demo. So obviously clean the airbrush out. Now what I've also been doing is with part of this, it suits red very much, but the red wash on its own is very, very strong. It can stain metallics quite easily. So I'll probably do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 drops of the flesh. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 drops of the red, and then just in the brush, give it a quick mix. Clean your brush. Now at this point you've got the wrong colour in the nozzle because so much of the original flesh wash will have gone in. So just on a bit of cloth, you'll suddenly see the red tint come through. Now if you then go for the deepest recesses with this, you can see it has a lot more vibrance. The red really does make it pop out a lot more. When it dries, it will lighten up a lot when it dries. I presume you can see that a bit. So the red just gives it that extra tint. So again, across the bottom like last time. The absolute centres of where you did on that one at the bottom. Now the pipe, you can just leave the pipe where it's got the original down there. That then gives it a lot more. I would probably, knowing what this wall looked like, I'd probably do a bit more down there. The other thing is, when you're actually pushing this through the airbrush, I'll show on this side, is if you keep it moving, it doesn't build up too bad. Whereas if you hold it on the spot, you get the spider's legs coming out. So just gently move it around using the trigger control. You'll also find if you then only push air through, then that dries really quick with it being a wash. So within minutes it's normally dry, but you can push that a lot quicker by just pushing it through the airbrush. Just normal air, nothing in it. Right, so at this point you're going to leave it dry for 5-10 minutes, just to make sure, because you're going to dry brush next, and obviously you don't want wash all over your dry brush. So while we push that one to the back to dry quickly, this one I'll quickly show you. That's the red flesh wash. So you can do exactly the same with it just in a palette. So I've got the normal wash there, and obviously when you put it on with a brush, it is going to go on a lot thicker than the airbrush. The airbrush gives you a lot more control. So what I tend to do is, when I'm putting it on with a brush, is tend to use Airbrush Medium. A few drops in there, mix it together, and it goes a bit thinner. So looking at the edging here, just, you don't need to be precise with it. Dirt and muck and shadows aren't all precise when they're all mixed together. So again, if you're doing that and it does dry up really quick, don't put as much, or it's not as bright as you want, don't put as much thinner in. If it's a bit too dark, put a bit more thinner in. Play by ear. It's not an exact science. So as you can see, you're getting the colour shift there. So again, on the exposed brickwork, if you just scrub it across, following the line. Again, this isn't, as I said, this isn't the paint going down. The wash does thin and it does go a lot clearer, transparent when it dries. And as I say, you can play around with it. You can trill some of it off to make it lighter. You can actually see as it's on if it's too dark or if it's too light, then you can add to it. So the same again, if you're wanting some of the red on, I'm mixing some of the red on top of the palette, and you can then get like the lower bits in a darker red. I know it's still wet, but you can see it going darker. And then obviously where this has started to dry, just like we did with the airbrush, if you run down the edge with the red mix, you get a second level of shading, so to speak. You've done the lower, the lighter version first, and then you've got that. So that's the main hack, is just using the washes where you can. The rest of it is just common sense. You now go to dry brushing. So you would paint these silver if you wanted to, but this area where it has dried, and I can show you the dry brush, you go back to the desert yellow using, again, I use a paper towel for it. So small splodge on a paper towel, just a dry brush, rub it into the bristles, and then just in one direction. So you can actually see it picks up some of that. And then if you want, as that looks, once you've got all the metalwork in, that will look really good. If you want it to pop, I tend to use moon dust. And again, I'll shake that because it's... Now this is a very, very light dry brush. I've hardly got any on when I do this. I take as much off as I can, and a lot of the time I won't even clean the dry brush from the sandstone, just to get a bit of a mix. So hitting all of the highest parts. You can see you've got a couple of patches, and it breaks up the sameness of, if you look at that bit, and that's the basics of doing this wall system. You put the sand texture with your desert yellow, let that dry, selectively wash it with your mixes of flesh wash and red tone, as and where you see fit. Then you go back, once it's fully dry, you do a dry brush of the yellow, get that across the board, and then you pick out some of the highest bits and the bits that you want to make pop. You can just to say see them. I've done a bit there, and it's starting to pop a bit there and a bit up here. Just where the bright yellow, I'll the moon dust has covered it. And I'd say you can do a building in no time. If you're doing the 3-tier building, I think I did it in a stream, and that's like 2 hours, but there was a lot of talking. Even allowing for drying time, I think you could probably do an entire building in probably an hour and a half without dry times. Obviously dry times are going to depend on how much you put down, how thick the original stodginess is. So, hope that helps. We'll be getting more of these out soon. In the meantime, if you would like, share, subscribe, all of our channel stuff, that would be absolutely fantastic. And we'll be back with the next one as soon as possible. Catch you all later. Cheers now.